Hi, this is JJ Carrell, Unrestricted Invasion, and my co-host Brian O'Shea is off today, so it is just me, and I have a special guest. He is a friend, but more important than that, even though I hold friendship to be very important in my life, as far as speaking the truth, someone that has truly the pulse of the Border Patrol, and his name is Gil Maza. And he is going to join us tonight. And why I want him on here tonight, because it's from a very, very different perspective. I was a frontline agent, as we talked about, and then a senior leader in the Border Patrol. So I have a very unique perspective of what is going on the border. Gil Maza runs a Facebook group, a huge Facebook group with intense following. And it's called Old Patrol HQ on Facebook. He does Instagram and he does a couple other things, and on X, and we'll talk about that, but mainly Facebook. He has a group, a hardcore following, specifically current agents in the Border Patrol and retired agents, from guys that just retired to guys that have been out for years and years. So it is a very intense focus group, if you will. Not a lot of fluff people on the outside are coming to this site. It's mainly Border Patrol agents. So he knows exactly what's happening on the border, more particularly what's happening inside the minds of these agents, because they go to him almost as a release. And Gil Maza has a very unique background as a Border Patrol agent because he was on peer support. And that is a group of agents that handle traumatic events. It could be a shooting, an agent death, somebody's wife or child dies. That's the family of the agent and how we're going to take care of our own. And he was a chaplain in San Diego sector. So he has a very unique perspective on the mindset and the turmoil and trauma that Border Patrol agents are suffering through right now, because they've been lied to. They feel as if everything that they swore an oath to protect, when they got their gun and their badge and their uniform, they're doing the complete opposite. They are taking unconstitutional orders and being forced to follow through and facilitate and participate in the unconstitutional orders. And that is something else I want to talk to Gil Maza about, because there's a fine line that a lot of Border Patrol agents, current and past, are struggling with. These agents following unconstitutional orders, because we have all through the academy and drilled into our head with continued training and education throughout our careers, you are never to follow an unconstitutional order. You have the moral and professional obligation to say no, and that is not happening. And it's more layered than that. It's more there's dire consequences for not following the orders. And it's complex. It truly is. It's not a black and white type of thing, because there's so many layers of deceit and corruption. And then you take human feelings and needs to take care of your family. So it's a great deal to talk about. And that's why I want to just jump right in. We have 45 minutes to 50 minutes with Gil, and I don't want to waste a minute, because what he has to say, and he's been following this probably 2 years before I have, and has been basically the front runner. We see all these people coming on talk shows and being interviewed. Well, this guy was way ahead of the curve. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Gil Maza, Senior Patrol Agent. How you doing, Gil?
Good, JJ. It's good to see you.
Very good to see you. Thank you for coming on Unrestricted Invasion. I've been wanting, Brian and I have been wanting to have you on for quite a while, and it just worked out that we were able to get you on this evening.
Sure.
Now, can you just tell our audience, just give us a quick rundown on you, who you are, and what your career was?
Okay, some quick points. So I joined the Border Patrol back in 1996, class 313 out of Glencoe. You know how proud we are of our class numbers, right?
Yes.
And throughout my career, I was an average agent. I've always looking after my fellow agents, always out there, always making sure that I was a dependable agent, that I was right there, that I was good backup for my fellow agents, things like that. The career ended up taking me through to various events to becoming the sector chaplain for San Diego sector. And I did that for a couple of years by myself, which meant a take-home ride, on call 24 hours a day. My wife had no idea where I was half the time because my schedule was not mids or morning or swings. It was whatever time I got called out, I was out there. And sometimes I was gone for days dealing with a line of duty death and assault, dealt with a lot of suicide, from just thinking about it to guys actually ready to do it and just waiting to get drunk enough to do it. And then their last phone call was to me, and there I am. So 2 years after that, I told the sector chief there that I needed a team of chaplains. And so I was able to organize and start the team of sector chaplains in San Diego sector in 2006. In 2008, I ended up going to DC to run the programs on a national level, and it ended up somehow the guy that was in charge, the A chief in charge of peer support, chaplaincy, and EAP, ended up taking off, and I ended up filling that seat for those 2 years that I was there, and then also dealing on a national level with suicides and assaults and line of duty deaths and things like that. So I move on in my career, a great career, best job I ever had. And then I retired just 3 years ago this March in 2021, which when I retired, my goal was to just ride into the sunset. I started Old Patrol HQ as a business. I'd sell and then I would just talk about the history, the heritage, the legacy of the Border Patrol with a few shenanigans along the way. But JJ, I woke up one day and all of a sudden I'm getting message after message after message on my phone, on my messages, on my social media. Gil, we just shut down entire Del Rio sector to process. Gil, we just shut down El Paso to process. Gil, we just shut down Yuma sector entirely to process. Which means at any given time, and Chief Rodney Scott would tell you this, would confirm this, about 80% or more of the entire southern border was left unmanned and unsecured from the very start of this putrid administration.
And that's where I want to start, okay? I want to just ask you this open question. Tell me what, from listening to agents that are constantly contacting you from HQ, Old Patrol HQ on Facebook, and contacting you directly. Tell me what your perception, or not just perception, but your reality and truth of what is happening on the border right now.
Okay, let's lay this out to where we're not talking red, blue, Republican, Democrat, nothing. We're just talking about the plain facts on the ground, okay? And for the nosebleed section, right now, we have been facing for almost 1,136 days, which I'm not counting, the greatest and deadliest taxpayer-funded, okay, human smuggling event and border security breach in the history, not of the Border Patrol, but of the entire country. And that is simple fact, JJ. All you have to do is go and check the records just at CDP or DHS. Record entries, record apprehensions, record gotaways, record releases, right? 5,000 to 6,000 a day for 1,100 days. I mean, even just that alone. Record rescues, record deaths, not only of border crossers, but of agents. Just in this last 3 years alone, we've seen more agents die. Some from other causes, others from suicide, but it's been more in the last 3 years than in the last 10 years. Okay. We're dealing with record fentanyl, record child trafficking, record human trafficking and smuggling. They've beaten every single record. And after the first year, JJ, they weren't beating the all-time record. They were beating their own record now.
Yep.
And that's been spiraling from then until now. What I don't understand, JJ, is all of a sudden, after 3 years, most of the media is coming around, and you said it in your monologue, right? I was sounding the alarm about a couple of years before you wrote your book and came on out. You were still working for the patrol. We both spilt the same blood in the same sector for a lot of years. You wrote your book. So I have been, the agents have been overwhelmed, overworked, exhausted, deserted, abused, maligned, mistreated, and not just by this administration. You have the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, who that guy has the law enforcement experience that I wouldn't even allow him to protect an outhouse. Okay. But you have the management and leadership of CBP itself against the agents. You have the brass that are taking advantage left and right of our agents. And now you have a union that can't figure out who the hell they want to follow or who they want to endorse, right? 1 minute they're endorsing Mayorkas as the greatest thing that ever happened. Chief Ortiz, before Chief Owens came along, endorsing Mayorkas like the greatest thing that ever happened to patrol. He even said that at a Forbo convention to a bunch of retired agents, right? He told them that Mayorkas was the best secretary of DHS he's ever worked under. And then you have this.
I don't want to interrupt you. What is the agent's view of Chief Ortiz now that's retired?
Oh, you know what? You notice he's hardly anywhere. Okay, because he that guy is not going to show his face anywhere because he is hated. He is loathed. Okay, Chief Scott was forced to retire because he wouldn't play ball with this administration, and this guy comes along, and it would be one thing if, like Chief Owens, he was just holding the line, right, doing the best he can, holding it together, trying to keep things together as best he can, and that's starting to get a little tricky, right?
Right. But
this guy didn't just hold the line; he toed the line for the administration, and even was willing to shut down agents and badmouth Border Patrol agents for the sake of this disgusting, putrid human being called Alejandro Mayorkas.
Okay.
And has
Go ahead. And I agree with that. I want to follow that up. You laid out exactly what I lay out and what I believe, right? We're cut from the same cloth in this idea. I want to follow up on that question and say, do you think that this is bad policy and bad decisions, or this is strategically intentional?
Let me be completely clear about this. This is 100% intentional. 100%. Okay. None of this has happened by accident. None of this has happened by happenstance. None of this happened because it's Trump's fault. You and I both know, as Border Patrol agents, that we inherited, or this administration inherited, the most secure border in about 80 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. That is a fact. All you got to do is just go and look straight at the numbers. That's all you have to do. Forget the politics. Right. So yes, it is 100% intentional.
Can you give me or the audience one or two examples of why you are so convinced it's intentional? What have they done? What has Mayorkas done?
Real simple. The first thing they did was rescind every policy that Trump had in place, right, to keep the border secure or to download. That caravan that happened during Trump's watch was completely liberal agency driven. People don't wake up one day, JJ, and say to 15,000 of them and say, you know what, I think I'm just going to start walking to America, and I know they're going to let me in when I get there. No, they were fed the information, they were trained, they were led, okay, to disrupt Trump's presidency. So Trump dealt with that with all these policies, MPP, staying in place, all those things. Title 42 had its purpose until this administration got a hold of it. Not only has this administration gotten rid of all those policies that were keeping the illegal alien traffic under control, they tripled down by opening wide every possible venue to get into this country that you possibly can. But number one, by making the entire border in the United States a one giant port of entry. Right? It used to be, and we were taught that at the academy, you have to go apply for asylum at a place designated by the Attorney General of the United States, and the only place designated is the ports of entry. Now, all of a sudden, you can step across any piece of land across the entire border, and now this administration allows you the right to claim asylum. But they're schizophrenic about it, JJ, because 1 minute Mayorkas is saying, well, and he's telling this to our agents, by the way, and they had to sign off. They had to sign off on training that said, number one, it's not a deportable offense to cross the border illegally and be in the country illegally. So that's the first off. Now they've gone from being migrants to undocumented non-citizens. Now they're called newcomers, right? So he has actually convinced Border Patrol agents that what's happening is no longer wrong because it's part of the plan. Their idea is that they're trying to make up for all the evils Trump committed. Well, nobody has lost more children than this administration alone. Nobody has facilitated more child sex trafficking and adult trafficking than this administration by itself. So it's just, you see it, policy after policy, action after action. And all they do is look around going, we inherited a broken system, but we're trying to be humane about it. So, I mean, I can go on.
But you're right. You hit on the very first thing when people say, well, what was the driving force? Tell me why you think it's treason. And you're right. Start on day one, not day 100 or 300 or the second year. Day one, Biden rescinded 94 executive orders on immigration from Donald Trump. Yeah. 94. So he totally took away everything that worked and threw it away, and which opened the floodgates. And then Mayorkas comes in and totally bastardized. We haven't even talked about CBP One app.
Oh God! Oh yeah, please. Yeah.
When you get app on your phone, like you're getting a reservation at your favorite restaurant, and you get swept in. The cartels sabotage the geofencing on that app, and now everybody uses it across the world.
So you can apply, right? You can apply in Uzbekistan and pretend you're right there in Tijuana, and then fly in from Uzbekistan and show them your appointment, and you are good to go. It's so hilarious that the federal government actually don't go to the smugglers, JJ. Let us do it for you. Yes. Let DHS and CBP smuggle you, because not only will we receive you with open arms, JJ, but we'll make sure you get to your final destination, all expenses paid.
And explain to the audience why the cartels hacked in and removed the geofencing. What's your reasoning for them for hijacking the CBP One app?
Well, the funny thing is that most people, JJ, think that we're dealing with the cartels, that we're dealing with a bunch of cavemen, that we're dealing with a bunch of country boys out there, still, using baling wire and duct tape to do their technology. They don't understand that we're dealing with lawyers, Fortune 500 trained professionals. But I'm pretty sure that America trained most of the professionals in intelligence, in subterfuge, in psychological warfare, in tactical warfare, and all those things. So they have an unlimited amount of money, first of all. And secondly, they know the CBP One app, JJ, better than any government employee. I guarantee it. And so they can go in, they'll go in there and they'll take apart CBP One and say, oh, this is a beauty. We can use this as an incentive for new customers. Hey, you come to us, we'll get you signed up with CBP One. We'll get you in. And then this is what tears our agents apart. Now they let our agents, and by the way, not just our green uniformed officers, not just Border Patrol CBP, we have the blue, Office of Field Operations, our OFO guys. They are hurting and they are destroyed because they are also having to release people that they know should not be released, right? But they know they'll take this technology, the cartels, and they'll tear it apart and use every weakness And now our agents and our officers are forced to literally complete the last leg of the journey for these guys. Yes. And that is insulting.
Yes, and the agents feel as if they are the last part of the smuggling operation.
And not only that, you know how many guys I've talked to that said, Gil, I have 10 years in, 12 years in, 14 years in, and I just had to release a woman whose boyfriend allowed her to get gang raped for 2 weeks by the cartels to pay for his way in. Oh, Gil, guess what? I had to let this little girl go with a guy that wasn't even her father. And that little girl had been sold to the cartel to pay for this guy's walk in to get raped, gang raped. But, you always hear the liberal Democrats say, JJ, if we could just save one life. But you know what? It has to be, for them, it has to be a politically expedient life.
Yes. Yes.
And they don't care where these kids end up. They don't care where, by the way, they don't care where any of these people end up. Honestly, once they're in, they don't give a crap where they end up. They just want to be able to say that the border's open, that we're being more humane. This is not humane by any stretch of the imagination.
No. All right, that's going to lead me to your wheelhouse is pretty big, but I want to focus on what's happening to the United States Border Patrol agents in their mindset. The turmoil, I believe, is trauma. This is traumatic to someone.
You're
Prior
absolutely
to
right.
that, I have to talk about a company that it kind of goes hand in glove in what we're talking about.
Okay.
Because as you and I are talking, I'm thinking about, sadly, I don't trust anyone. I don't trust the law enforcement community, the intel community. I don't trust our religious leaders. I don't trust our doctors with the vaccine and everything that's happening right now. So I always hold this up, and my partner always goes crazy when I do it, but I got it right here. It's called the Wellness Company, TWC.health.gov.com. And what it has in it, and I'll just tell you, Gil, because I think this goes right into what we're talking about. It has everything you need to survive. It has ivermectin. There's another kit that I'm getting that is called a contagion kit, and it has everything that I need for the next pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Like I talk about this quite a bit on our podcast. I was in South Dakota for 2 years, got COVID real bad, went to the hospital, thought I was going to die. If I would have had ivermectin, a Z-Pack, if I would have had any of that, I could have staved this off. But the reason, well, people say, well, you just go to the pharmacy. I couldn't go to the pharmacy because Joe Biden hated Kristi Noem in a ultra red conservative state and literally cut off the supplies of medicines for COVID in the state of South Dakota. Nurses and doctors came into me and said, JJ, this was a quote, we have nothing to give you because you have not hit the high threshold of probability of dying. So we're going to give you a treatment. I remember this. I'm laying in bed and I'm looking at them and I can barely breathe. And they say, I'm going to give you remdesivir. And this is a quote, and I don't know what it's going to do for you. And when you're on you're feeling like you're going to die, you're looking at the doctor and you're saying, you have to trust him. Yeah. I would have never been in that position, Gil, if I had a wellness company kit back then, right? If I had a contagion kit, a medical emergency kit, if I had that, I would have been okay. I know it. I would have saved tens of thousands of dollars in hospital bills. I would have not missed work for a month, and on and on and on. So just go, audience, please go to the Wellness Company, twc.health.com, and put in the promo code unrestricted and get a very big discount. And I appreciate it if you go to them. Now, back to what the main reason, the culmination of why I wanted you to come.
Okay.
Because as I said in my monologue or the beginning of the show, is you have a skill set that is very unique than mine. I feel like I'm a compassionate, kind, understanding guy. but I know I have limitations and I do not have been trained in the skill set that you have. Now, I have dealt as being a senior leader in a station.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, everything comes, agents going through suicides, agents suicide attempts, agents going through severe divorce, financial issues, you name it. I have hundreds of guys in my station. I have hundreds of problems, right?
Right.
It's just human nature. People live lives. But you being a chaplain and setting it up in San Diego and the National Inner Border Patrol, I want to know right now, give me a breakdown, a psychological breakdown of the border agent on the front lines today.
Okay. Keep in mind that we're about to celebrate our 100th year anniversary in the United States Border Patrol. Something that we are all proud of, right? We are proud to be Border Patrol agents. We were proud to wear the uniform, proud to wear the badge and the gun, proud to have the authority to be out there. We were very happy to know that people could go to bed at night not having to think about the border, right? How many Americans actually went to bed before this administration started actually wondering what was coming through the border? They didn't have to, JJ, because you and I sacrificed family and life to be out there. Now, don't get us wrong. We love the job, right? But that was the job, right? To intercept the monsters coming in through the border in the middle of the night so America could sleep soundly. Now, we had a monster recently in El Paso, right? Michelle, I forget her last name, but Lacheli, right? Who was involved in cartel dismemberment, in sacrificing the Santa Muerte, body count on her like you couldn't believe, walking around free in America. And who knows how many more just like her. And lately, we've suffered so many illegal alien attacks on citizens that Bill Malusian said, we can't keep up with them all. We can't keep up with it. So all that to say this, the Border Patrol was created in 1924 for one reason and one reason only, and that's enforcement. There's always been messes in the border. There's always been holes here and there. There's always been political BS going back and forth. One administration comes in and does this, the other does that. Okay, yes, but nothing to the horrific extent it is now. So now you have a once proud agency that was trained to enforce, now doing nothing but facilitating the mass processing and release, JJ, of what? Now we're probably up in the 100,000s of special interest aliens that have come into the United States that we don't know where they are. The astronomical amount of gotaways that people like to put a number on, but they're called gotaways for a reason, and that's because we don't know. Now, you and I both know that one of our trade secrets is for every one that we catch, there's going to be probably 2 to 3 gotaways. So now take the number of entries and encounters, that just triple it conservatively, and how many people have come in that we're not even aware of. How many monsters are walking around that we weren't able to intercept? That plays such a damaging role in the psyche of the law enforcement officer, and to wit, a United States Border Patrol agent, because they were created, built, trained to protect America. Right? To protect their families, but also to protect everybody else's families. And they don't give a rat's butt about your race, your gender, your religion, nothing. They're out there protecting you. So you take that away, you take that identity away, which is our number one identity. What do you have left? You have a bunch of people now processing, releasing people they know should not be released, releasing people that their own agency is gaslighting America on, because even DHS and CBP says you cannot claim asylum based on violence or financial burden. Well, what other reason have these millions upon millions upon millions of people been released for? You see what I mean? So their job has been reduced to literally just pawns of this administration. This administration doesn't care if these guys just process, because they're not concerned about enforcement, JJ. They're just concerned about just releasing and glutting America with illegal aliens. These agents feel abandoned. And again, not just by the administration, but by DHS, CBP, their own unions. They feel like they're being vilified. They're being kicked under the bus. Now, even citizens are raising up, going, "Why don't these guys rebel and fight and reject all this stuff?" Well, I've been hearing from these guys and like, okay, so I'm supposed to give up my entire career, my retirement, my feeding my family, paying my bills, and taking care of my children and my future for a country that honestly doesn't seem to give a damn, or worse, political parties on both sides that one of them seems like they're just kids that are lost. I feel like the Democrats just manipulate the Republicans like adults taking candy from babies. So why should they sacrifice their entire life and career and everything for, number one, a country that doesn't seem to care, and number two, for political parties that are just seeming to be out for themselves?
That is a great point. I want to follow up on this because you are right, and you and I have discussed this prior. There seems to be a groundswell of saying, agents, you are now part of the problem.
Yes.
You're part of the treason. You're part of the criminality. And there's a part of me that says there's some truth to that.
I'm struggling with that too.
Okay, I know you are. But there's also a part of me where I'm thinking back to when I was a journeyman agent or a supervisor, and there was some bad stuff going on, and we were fighting it. Nothing like it now.
Yeah.
Nothing like now. But let me act like I'm an agent talking to you and tell me if this is what you're hearing. Gil, I work in Del Rio sector. There's 5,000 people a day coming up. I'm processing on my shift, 600 to 700. I'm releasing all of them. The Democrats are calling me vile names. They're calling me racist, xenophobe, everything. Republicans are doing nothing to stop them from saying those vile things. In fact, they're helping facilitate monies to go to Ukraine. No money for us. No safety valve. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But I have a wife and 2 kids, and they're going to school. We have a house. And the American public now is pushing up against me. I don't care anymore, Gil. I see the world is against me and does not appreciate me. In fact, they're making me do things that are illegal. I am now in the mindset if I just show up like I'm a factory worker and I check in and I check out and I go home. Do you hear that?
Let me tell you, you are 100% on point, okay? What I'm beginning to understand about the patrol, and it's breaking my heart, JJ, is that at one time, it was all of us or none of us. Okay.
Yes.
Now it's every man for himself. Again, where do they go? They can't go to the president. They can't go to their management in DHS. They can't go to their management in CBP. They can't go to their union, right? The union was going to force them to take the vax. The union said there's nothing to be done. The agents go out and get their own lawyers and manage to stall that to the point, all the way to the point where Biden no longer wanted that. So what does that say about the union? The union comes out and supports Mayorkas, who is you and I both know, this man was trained from back in, for decades, has trained for what he's doing right now. And he has been able to dismantle the entire United States immigration system and bring it to its knees. And that took skill. Okay. Yes. This was not by accident. This guy knew what he was doing and he knew how to do it. And he just sits there with that stupid smirk on his face, repeating the same old lies over and over again. And you know what? Him, as well as Joe Biden, as well as the Democrats, all they got to do is obfuscate and just keep repeating the same old lie. And apparently they still keep winning.
Okay? Yeah, because nothing's changing. Now, how does that changing. And then how does that manifest itself into agent divorce, agent trauma, agent family issues, drinking, drugs, and then ultimately suicide?
Okay, so I told you earlier that I'm going to shock you. Okay, let's talk right now openly about the EAP, peer
Tell us what that
support
is.
and chaplaincy program for the
Okay,
Border
hold
Patrol.
on.
Okay,
Explain
okay.
what EAP is, because this is a
EAP
great
is
program.
the Employee Assistant Program. The Employee Assistant Program in the DHS CBP is a program that hires and brings in a group of psychologists who are on call anytime a Border Patrol agent or DHS employee needs mental or psychological assistance. They can call, they can discuss what's going on, and then they get assigned or an appointment to go visit a psychologist in their area or the closest one they can to them. Some of them actually now have them in-house for that matter. But here's the problem with that. The problem is the psychologists that EAP brings in through DHS, they are not particularly law enforcement trained. And if there's one thing that anybody that's worked in psychological services in law enforcement and outside is, you cannot bring a psychologist that has never worked with law enforcement to talk to a Border Patrol agent or any kind of law enforcement officer, because we're a whole different animal. It's a whole different industry all by itself. So what EAP does right now is that they just hire people brand new, cheap, it's cheap and it's easy. And they bring these people in, and they may be trained and experienced in psychology, but they're not trained in law enforcement, particular psychology. And I can back that up with all kinds of people.
When did that happen?
That's been happening. No, it's not recent. No, it's been happening for a good while now. In fact, it might have been happening close to a decade so far. The counselors that are in EAP right now aren't the ones you and I knew back in the day that would ride along with us. We would experience traumas out in the field together. I don't know how many times I took guys in San Diego out on ride-alongs. We answered calls together. We answered agent assaults, agent injuries, even deaths together. But that's not the kind of psychologists we have right now. So there's that deficit of trained people that are properly trained to handle the mentality of the job we do. That's number one. Number two, even though we have decent and legitimate peer supporters and chaplains in the Border Patrol and throughout DHS, CBP, okay, the problem is that the confidentiality of those programs is completely shot.
What?
Nobody, that's the problem. See, people have, whether they have suicidal problems or they have issues like that, issues that would cost you your badge and your gun, or possibly go on the rubber gun squad or admin squad, right? They don't trust this administration with those things. And therefore, even now, in a lot of sectors, the confidentiality is just gone. And so for these guys to be able to,
so if they talk to a chaplain and they talk to a peer support, which is basically their peers.
Yes.
There's no confidentiality?
Lately, there has been no, basically word gets out. Somehow it gets spread. And the problem is that if an agent goes to EAP and he comes back without his gun to the station and he's put on admin duty, does not everybody know what just happened? Yeah. That's the problem. See, that's the problem. But well-trained counselors in law enforcement are not. They're not getting them. And unfortunately, it's in my perspective and in the feedback that I get from the field, a lot of the chaplains and peer supporters that are going to get trained for this job are not the right people for those jobs.
What are we seeing as far as suicides since Joe Biden has taken office?
So I've had the worst time trying to get the exact numbers of these things. But let me tell you that when you open the border the way it's been opened in the last 3 years, you have increased the risk of the Border Patrol agent by 1,000-fold. In other words, for the Border Patrol, for law enforcement, going to work every day was a risk, right? There was a risk factor involved the whole time. That risk has been magnified now because now, literally, there's just wide open gap in the entire border. People are flooding in. And the record numbers of assaults, the record numbers of firearms incident, JJ, aren't even being reported. All of them are not being reported. So it has escalated to the point where our agents are risking their lives needlessly, because this doesn't have to be happening. This was a manufactured crisis with a manufactured, influx of illegal aliens. And now they have to deal with that, monstrous number of people. And therefore the risk has exponentially gone high. So agents have, suicides have gone up. The illness has gone up tremendously. A lot of things people don't talk about recently is the fact that all these people coming in from these countries are not vaccinated for anything. So now we're seeing outbreaks that nobody's talking about. Measles, smallpox, all those things we thought we eradicated are making a huge surge along all these borders. And now even in New York, and now even in Chicago and other places where they go, because we are opening our schools. They were allowing them to come in and see if you take your kid to school, you need to show IDs, you need to show vaccinations. When you're illegal, you can take your kid to these schools and you don't have to show anything. Okay. And that's where the big disconnect is. An illegal alien commits crime after crime after crime after crime. He is considered innocent no matter how many times he's proven guilty. Americans don't get that privilege. Right? You can't beat up a cop and just walk away 2 or 3 times. They just exonerated one of the guys that beat up the New York police officers, the one that, gave us the double bird. Yep. Guy has been set free clear. So we paid our politicians to represent America. But apparently now most of today's politicians seem to want to represent every other country and every illegal alien that's coming into this country before they deal with or take care of their own people here in this country.
The one thing I hear from Border Patrol agents, Gil, is, and I talk about this every now and then, and it's important to discuss. We're talking about men and women that work for me directly, that I know are very strong workers, that maybe not have worked with me, but they have great reputations.
Yeah.
You're kind of fearless, right? When you're on the border by yourself in the middle of the night and you're arresting people
in the
brush or you have to be fearless, and you have to almost be a little off center to be able to work in that environment, right?
Yeah.
So the one thing that I never heard from any of my agents was fear. None. I'm talking about middle of the night, taking down MS-13, taking on the coastline, taking down huge shipments of narcotics from the Sinaloa cartel, and there are 20 to 30 mules that take the dope up off the California coastline.
Yeah,
but now I hear fear. They actually tell me, JJ, I'm scared. Okay, why are you afraid, man? You never were afraid before. And it's no, I'm not afraid of being out in the field. I'm afraid of who I'm releasing. Yeah, I'm releasing on our screens, the audience on our screens, on our computer screens, where we enroll someone, meaning we put all of their fingerprints in a database, roll it on a screen, it pops up, and it's pretty quick. It tells me if this person is prior deported alien, criminal alien, what type of crime, and it's called a red bar. A red bar would pop up on your screen, a little red bar. So you would say, dang, man, I got a red bar, meaning I have a case. Yep. Agents are telling me the whole screen's red. The whole screen is red. And I'm releasing everyone.
Yes.
I'm releasing, like you said, I'm releasing young girls and boys, toddlers with men that I know for 100% is not their dad.
Yep.
It has no relation to them. They've been smuggled and they've been sold by the cartels to make them a family unit. And
what's worse, JJ, what's worse is that a lot of times, look at the mountain of people that they have to bring in, process, push out of the processing center to get the other ones that have been sitting out there in the field for 10, 12, 15, 20 hours. The problem is, JJ, that a lot of times by the time that entire red bar screen comes back, guess what? Those guys are already gone.
Yes.
That's, I mean, that takes your breath away, doesn't it? You remember the time that if you process somebody and you somehow managed to VR them back and they came back as a red bar, what the price you had to pay for that was disciplinary. That was disciplinary. Now the agents process, NGOs come back and take them and start transporting wherever they're going at taxpayer expense, because I don't care what anybody says. They think that because an NGO takes them, that we're not reimbursing them with tax dollars, then you are more lost than you think you are. But then the bars come back, and then the derogatory information comes back, and guess what? They're long gone.
They're gone.
And that right there is enough to drive any Border Patrol agent that cares about his country, that cares about his family, that cares about everybody's family. Insane. And they've been doing it, JJ, for 3 years. People talk like the crisis just began, but they have been underwater, spooning spoonfuls out of the Titanic for 3 years now. And amazingly enough, JJ, all of a sudden, Elon Musk is coming around. Just a few weeks ago, all of a sudden, he's coming around. And now we're getting a little more attention. Now people are starting to scream what I was saying all those years ago, what you came in raging and screaming. One of the best laughs I ever got was reading your book. Now, don't take that wrong. Okay. The reason is because literally the moment I put it down, that book was already... it had upped my level of understanding of what was going on. But by the time I got done reading that book, JJ, it was outdated. It was already, because we have come to a place right now that nobody would have ever guessed or even imagined possible. And the sad thing is that we have people in green uniforms and badges that actually support this administration, support Alejandro Mayorkas, and think that somehow even the union said that Mayorkas was a victim of this administration. And they expect what? That Mayorkas is going to resign and finally figure out that, oh my gosh, this is wrong? No, because he is the author of it all, as chapter 4 of your book says.
Yep. I remember I wrote a Substack article before I came on. And I can remember writing that book. And it's been 1 year, almost about 10 months, when I was finalizing the final drafts. And I remember, Gil, writing like the numbers and data. And I remember then literally stopping typing, reading what I wrote, and then literally sitting back in my chair like this and say, nobody's going to believe this.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to believe this. I mean, it's true. I know I'm right. I've looked at the data 9 times out, 9 ways sideways, talked to agents. I have anecdotal evidence and I have hardcore evidence. I have everything in between. But nobody's going to believe that we're almost at 9,000 arrests a day. In December, we were hitting 20,000.
Thank you. Yes.
Day.
Yes.
To wrap your brain around it is almost incomprehensible to understand the gravity of this treason and the replacement theory, the special interest aliens and the terrorists and the CCP.
The Chinese, the astronomical number of Chinese. And I remember one time you said something that really, really resonated with me. You were like, you said, what number of influx of illegal aliens is going to be the magic number where they all of a sudden say finally enough is enough? And I found it comical that one of the negotiating points of this last disgusting border security, it shouldn't even be called that. It's like this monstrosity of a bill they put out, that they were going to, if we hit 5,000, we're going to stop it. You and I both know it's not going to happen. How are you going to do? Explain to me how you're going to do that. And then why aren't you doing it now? If you have
why do we have one? How about one crosses the border triggers the army?
Yeah.
But 5,000 is okay?
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous.
We live in it is, and you and I have discussed this before. In the audience, I want to reiterate this point. The moment that you're able to pull back from this situation and literally put on new glasses and look through the lens of people that hate America, people that want to transform America. And
Yes.
when you put those glasses on, guess what? Everything makes sense. Every decision they make, every word they utter, every action they take, it makes complete sense. This is how you fundamentally transform America. You destroy her from the inside out.
Well, think about this for a
happening.
second. Think about this for a second. People keep talking about how the Great Reset is coming, right? Let me ask you this. Name one institution, American institution in the United States right now that isn't already irrevocably changed for decades to come, for the foreseeable future, has already been changed, already completely. Just one.
You can't.
Due to illegal alien.
Yeah.
Due to the illegal alien influx, right? Medicine, business, school, education, everything. Big
social
tech,
welfare,
everything. Social
societal
welfare,
norms.
Yes, all completely
Everything.
changed now. That's by the way, that's done. So let's not talk about that's coming. That is done. It is in past tense, done. And in 2000, in the last census, we had 6 states that had to change their electoral college for the benefit of the Democrats because the census has to count heads. They have to count whether it's legal or illegal, doesn't matter. They have to count all heads. Now, I believe, I don't know what you think about this, that we're upwards in the 50 million illegal aliens in this country, what we had before, plus what's come in with Biden in the last 3 years. What do you think the 2031 census is going to do to our electoral college?
It's going to flip it. It's going to make it insane.
And you know what?
Yep.
And you know what? I'm impressed. I am impressed with the Democrat Party. I'm impressed with the Liberal Party because you know what? They're 15 chess moves ahead, while our Republicans look like a bunch of fat little babies who don't know how their little binky was stolen.
I agree. I believe that the Democrats run our country. The Republicans are like a battered spouse waiting for the next order from their master. And they're holding on to some fantasy that they're going to make that abuser love them again. And the Republicans also are holding on for whatever power they have because it equates to wealth, more and more wealth. And they want that. And we're seeing our nation fundamentally transform in front of us, Gil. And that's why you hear the passion from not only me, but from guys like you that are, and you and I have talked about this before. Sometimes it feels as if we're screaming into the wind. However, I will say this about what you have accomplished. You are ahead of the curve, Gil. The things that you talk about, you do a daily border update. Mm-hmm. You do your tweets and you do your post on Facebook, and you're ahead of the curve because the way I know you're ahead of the curve, I see your posts, I talk to you beforehand, and then at 2 or 3 days to a week later, I see them popping up on the New York Post, New York Times even, Fox News, Breitbart News. You're ahead of the curve, so keep doing it. What you're doing is beneficial, and the agents need a forum.
An outlet.
In closing, before we close, I would like you to answer this for me. I am hearing that DHS monitors your site.
Yes.
And agents are afraid to come on and either dislike, or leave, and they are absolutely discouraged from leaving any comment or scared to death to do. Is that
true?
Sharing,
yes. That is absolutely 100% true. In fact, do I have a crystal ball, JJ? Am I just some kind of magic seer that saw into the future? No. I get my information raw and unfiltered straight from the field. And one of the things, and by the way, you confirmed it once as well, right? Because you heard from a whole other side that my pages are monitored 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. I have seen proof from agents across the country when they show me copies of them getting disciplined by OPR, and my old Patrol HQ is all the way down the page. You posted, and by the way, they're going retroactively to the very first day that Biden got elected. Tell me that's not intentional. From that day on, 24 hours a day. We're paying taxpayer dollars to not only agents and officers, but also to companies to monitor my social media. And by the way, by default, monitoring every agent and officer's social media they're posting and how. And unfortunately right now, and fortunately or unfortunately, because I guess being infamous has its privileges, that I'm the number one, flavor of the month for them, for those guys in DC.
That's censorship. And that is putting the screws to agents. And what that tells me is they have boxed the agents into a corner and said, if you speak about this, you're going down.
And everybody has understood that there's been a gag on everything that they can say and do social media wise. I got agents right now that are being put through the ringer, investigated, and punished for having gone either on a show or spoken to media outside of myself, outside of Volt Patrol, that are to this point right now still waiting on disciplinary action from stuff that they did 3 years ago.
We're living in a time that historians are going to write volumes about. And unfortunately, I believe what they're going to write is how America allowed herself to be completely overrun and taken over by an invasion, by their own hands, by their own traitors, people. And by the time America woke up, it was too late. I really believe
this is an invasion, JJ. This is an invasion that America is asking for. America is begging for. America is funding. America seems to be so happy and willing to just bring them all in, We got literally more, illegal aliens in this country that can make up a few armies across the world.
Yep. And unfortunately, that's the truth, that we have terrorists that have come in. We have special interest aliens with ties to terrorism in the hundreds of thousands, as you mentioned earlier, and I agree. We have soldiers from the CCP coming in. We have insane asylums and prisons being emptied by Venezuela.
Talk to us about Venezuela, right?
Yeah, so Venezuela has now going to surpass, projected in 2024, almost 700,000 new Venezuelans will be arrested and released into America. And we already are at 700,000 now since Biden's first 3 years. His fourth year will equal the last three combined. Venezuelans' murder rate is the lowest it's been in 22 years.
Yes.
Why is that, Gil? Because their murderers are here in America.
Yes, exactly right. And the beauty of it is he turns around and shuts deportations to Venezuela down. So now we can't even send their own people, his own people, back to their own country somehow. Right. So it's just brilliant. 350,000 Venezuelans, only 832 deported. And yet ICE every hour on the hour will say, we remove everybody. Talk about some gaslighting.
We know the removal rate. The removal rate is about 3%.
It's less than that. I mean, just, from 350,000, 832 removed, it's like 0.2 something percent. So it's even worse than that, JJ.
It's a lie. And so your audience understands what we're talking about. Let's look at the savage that killed Lakeland Riley in Georgia, University of Georgia campus. Okay. Let's take that monster. Let's just fast forward and let's say it's 20 years from now, he gets out of prison. Under the current regulations that Maduro has told Biden, because Biden is a bag of skin, he told Biden, you can't send him back to our country. We're not taking him. So guess what we will do? We will release that savage back into our society.
That is correct.
Send him to Venezuela. Now, so the audience understands, 3 years ago, under Donald Trump, every nation on planet Earth agreed to take back their nationals. Every single 195 nations on planet Earth, because Trump told them, you either going to do what I say or I'm going to crumble you financially. And they were like, okay, we'll do whatever you want. That's the difference we're looking at, people. We're looking at a president and administration that hates America, is going to allow rapists, murderers, pedophile, gang members, terrorists, and soldiers to live in our country versus Donald Trump, who removed everyone. The safest border I've ever witnessed in my 24-year career. We were deporting every single person.
And yet we still got people on social media saying we have the most secure border we've ever seen right now. It's enough to drive you up the wall.
I know. Before I let you go, I have one more sponsor that I want to talk about, and it's important because Gil likes to.
I hope it has something to do with hair products.
It's close, Gil. It's close. Called Charlize, Charlis, and it's a skin product. And I know you're laughing. Look at Gil. Gil, I know that I have a little glow. I see it.
You do, but I wasn't going to say anything.
Sometimes I shine. I shine like a star. But let me tell you about this product, okay? Because it's important.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's not for men, even though sometimes I feel like a woman and I just got to splash it on my face and I feel good. My skin shines. Charlize,
I can't believe I just heard that.
I want you to listen. I didn't know this, right?
Okay.
Until I saw it, right? They wrote
We're
down.
seeing JJ's feminine side here. Go ahead, JJ.
Hey, this is the new America, baby. You got to love it. I'm going to read this to you because I didn't know this. And this is insane. Okay. This shows you how insane our nation is. Okay. This is from Charlize. Okay. And Charlize.com and go and the promo code is unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
According to the FDA, Gil, companies in the U.S. are allowed to market skin care products as non-toxic while still containing up to 49% toxic ingredients. So if it doesn't go to 50%, you can say, this is non-toxin. 49. Wait a minute. You just put 49% of my skin cream is toxic? And they're saying that a lot of that 49% of toxicity is cancer-causing ingredients. Time out. Holy smokes. This is the world we live in. We live in a world that has there are no bumper rails. There's no guardrails to society. There's no more truth. There's no more civility, kindness, compassion, just integrity. But this product has it. They are all natural. There are no 49% toxicity ingredients. And this is something else I didn't know because I just didn't know.
You're killing me.
I love it. And I'm going to educate you.
You're killing me.
I know. Yeah, dude, you are a knuckle dragger, and I'm going to educate you. All right? And I'm going to read it. I'm looking at my screen because sometimes I just have to read it the way it is. The skin is the largest organ of the body. Did you know that?
Yeah, I'm going to say I did.
No. Let's not
did.
play games. You didn't know that. I know you didn't. And it says it works like a sponge to actively absorb whatever you put on it. Think of that. Wait a minute. Think of that. It actively absorbs whatever you put on it. So why not put something that does not have toxic waste on it and put something all natural? Charlize.com, put unrestricted on there. You have a glow like this. Men like Gil Maza will look at you, even though he looks at me this way, and says, wow, that skin is glowing. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? You're going to make me stop using my Buffalo Bill skin lotion stuff, okay? So,
all right, Gil. I appreciate you coming on because you gave us a complete different, even though you and I are aligned on data, the belief of what's happening, you gave me and the audience a great window to look through to the agent and what's happening on the line. And I think I absolutely believe it's important when not even just Border Patrol, law enforcement in general, and understand the level of, and I forget the data on this, but it's significant. What a law enforcement officer, an active law enforcement officer, goes through in a week or a month. It's like what somebody goes through in a lifetime of trauma.
Yes.
In a lifetime.
Yes.
You know that better than I do. I don't know the data statistics. But can you imagine, average citizen, think of all of the trauma you've had in your life and condense it to 3 days. 3 horrible days on the job. Shootings, deaths, suicides, rapes, murders, blood spilled everywhere, your blood everywhere, accidents, hurt, pain in 3 days. In 3 days. So thank you for telling us, coming on this Unrestricted Invasion podcast, talking about something that's uncomfortable. A lot of times people don't want to hear it, but it's so valuable. Before we go, please tell us all the places that you can find Old Patrol HQ, your ex, and also I want everyone to know about your daily border update.
Okay, so I do a daily border update for the John B. Wells Caravan to Midnight program. So it's on every single night. I do a daily update on my social media. It's on Facebook. It's Old Patrol HQ. And believe it or not, on Instagram, it's Old Patrol HQ. So just look that up, and you'll find those in there. And again, the information you're gonna get there is raw and unfiltered, straight from the field, not adjusted for one party or another. You're just gonna get the facts, and that's what the primary thrust is. I share history, I share jokes, I share legacy. My humor is a bit, could be a bit rough at times, but that's where you can find us. And if you want to get everything that you need to understand what's going on the border right now.
Great, Gil. Thank you for coming on. And I want you to come back because this is not going to get better. It's going to get worse before we ever come back to normal, whatever.
And even after we cover everything we covered tonight, JJ, we haven't even gotten into, 90% of the rest of it.
I know. For another time. Thanks, Gil Maza. Take care, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you, bro. Be safe. Stay safe.